Wow, welcome into a special edition of the Cam Show live, not at our normal time, trade deadline reaction, and boy, did I have to switch a lot of things around at the last minute. Stunning news on the Boston Bruins front. They are trading their captain, their franchise icon, a guy whose number 63 is going to be in the rafters someday, future Hall of Famer, Brad Marchand, to what could be their biggest rival right now, the Florida Panthers. Stunning last second move at the end of the trade deadline. We don't even have all the details yet. Elliot Friedman reporting Marchand to Florida. It is happening. We set up this show to talk about the big Charlie Coyle trade and some of the other ones they did in the week. But in the dying seconds of the trade deadline, the Bruins are sending Marchand to Florida in what has to be the shocking move of the day outside of Mikko Rantanen and Brandon Carlo to the Toronto Maple Leafs. We wanted Don Sweeney to clean house to a certain extent. He is cleaning house. I thought it was the best thing they could do in terms of, kind of rebuilding on the fly was to trade Brad Marchand, but none of us expected this. I don't know if the Panthers were ever a player in this throughout the whole time. And in fact, as recently as yesterday and this morning, this Friday morning, we heard West Coast, team in the Western Conference, Vegas, LA, Colorado. Colorado probably goes off the table with the Brock Nelson deal and then the Charlie Coyle deal. And he ends up going to Florida. And now you've sent out, which, look, the Bruins aren't making the playoffs, so this isn't a huge deal in this sense, but you've sent out probably your two best trade chips going into the day, Brad Marchand and Brandon Carlo, to two division rivals who will be competing for the Stanley Cup this spring. Wow. I mean, all the bad blood that's happened between these two teams in the last few years, Brad Marchand has been right at the center of it. And now he will be playing for the Florida Panthers. This is incredible stuff. This has to go down as one of the most shocking trades in Bruins history. And we don't know the return yet. I don't know what Florida does not have great draft capital from what I remember. Well, neither did Colorado, and you got a second out of them for this year. But there are now no remaining players on the Boston Bruins from the 2011 Stanley Cup champions. Brad Marchand is a Florida Panther, a team they're playing next week, by the way. What's that, Tuesday? He won't be able to play, but Brad Marchand gone. Still, I can't lie to you guys. This is one that's really thrown me for a loop. I've been saying on the Cam Show for weeks now that Brad Marchand is their best trade chip. That's the guy they should part ways with. It sucks. He's a fan favorite. He's a captain. He's a future Hall of Famer and all that stuff. But you've put yourself in this situation. You've got to make a move to go out and get something like a first-round pick. And if he goes to the Kings or the Avs or even the Golden Knights, which teams, most fan bases don't really like, it's whatever. But now he's going to the Florida Panthers. Wow. By the way, the Cam Show is live on this YouTube channel, high noon Eastern time every weekday. Talk a lot of Bruins and all Boston sports every weekday. But wow, this is huge. The trade itself, trading Brad Marchand, is one thing, but to trade him to Florida, that is something shocking. And there's a couple of ways you can look at this. From Don Sweeney's perspective, you can see it as, what the hell is he doing, trading him to an Eastern Conference rival? Or you could see it as, this is a desperate man making desperate moves. And, we shit on Don Sweeney all year long, and we should. Like, the reason they're doing this is because of the roster he's put together, and it's not nearly good enough. And we needed him to put the balls out on the table and not stand pat, and he didn't do it. We need to wait on the return to really formulate the opinion to see if he was backed into a corner and bullied or not. But right now, you had some big-time trade chips, as big as the Bruins could get with this roster, and you more or less traded them all. Hampus Lindholm out long-term. You didn't trade him. Morgan Geekie was the other one that people thought might go. You didn't trade him. But Frederic, Brazeau, Coyle, Carlo, and Marchand. All of them gone. And unfortunately, that's what this team needed. And when we see the return on Marchand, I think we'll have a better idea on whether he could be a Bruin again in the summer, right? We've got to remember this is a guy on an expiring deal. Seems like he wanted to play for the Bruins, but based on this return, if there's a first round pick and a second or a big time prospect, then you're like, oh shoot, they think they're going to get him for another year or two after this. And obviously Florida is a great team, great organization, a place where players want to play. But if you feel like you're getting fleeced or you're getting screwed on the deal a little bit, then maybe there's the opportunity of him coming back in the summer. But it is worth noting that he and Don Sweeney have had meetings. They met over the Four Nations break, and that if this is a trade that is happening, which it has just happened, then there's a good chance that they did not agree on a number. They've been talking extension the whole year. So if they sorry, just trying to see if we're getting anything on the return. If this is the trade that happens at the last minute, it could be okay, or it could be indicating that they just didn't reach the number. But wow, this is fascinating. We still don't have anything on the Carlo deal yet. Fraser Minton is expected to be a part of that, one of the prospects for Toronto. God, I had all these ready for the Charlie Coyle trade. And here we, at the last second, it should have been on me. I should have scheduled this a little bit later. Now you've got two major deals happening right at the end here. Fraser Minton, 20 years old, turning 21 before next season. One of the top prospects. In fact, all of the Toronto news from the last couple of days are like, don't trade Minton, trade Cowan instead. Wow. And to get that for Carlo, by the way, let's do Carlo for a second. I think that's one that the Bruins are going to miss Carlo in the short term, but because he does a lot of dirty work, but he really hasn't had a great season and a half here, the last season and a half. And he's 29. That kind of guy is getting max value at 29. It's a lot tougher to trade at age 30 than it is 29. Interested to see how high they are on this Minton kid, because it sounded like there was a deal in place potentially to send Carlo and Trent Frederic to Colorado a few days ago. Of course, Frederic goes to St. Louis. Coyle goes to Colorado, which I think is funny. They were about to trade for a winger and a defenseman from the Bruins. They end up getting a center from the Bruins instead. Minton has played 15 games this year, 19 for his career. He's got 4 points, couple of goals, couple assists, -4. He was second round, 38th overall in 2022. It's only 20 years old, man. That's the thing with all these deals. The Bruins have gone young, which I was afraid they might not. It makes all the sense in the world to go young, but I still don't know if I trusted Sweeney that much. But, with the Coyle deal, you traded a 33-year-old Coyle for a 26-year-old Coyle in Casey Mittelstadt. I know that's been a real divisive one because Mittelstadt's not had a good year nor a good tenure in Colorado. They traded for him at the deadline last year and they flip him at the deadline a year later. I think there's still some upside there. I'm not going to say he's a great player, but he's got some offensive upside and he's 7 years younger than Charlie Coyle. So there's not much. And you got a second round pick and this Zellers kid, who's playing in the USHL right now. That's a project. You're probably looking at him at the time that you're seeing Dean Letourneau, because it sounds like Zellers is seriously thinking about honoring that commitment to North Dakota as well. But he's having a great year in the USHL in Green Bay. So you went younger. You've stockpiled some picks. In fact, I do have this came in before the Marchand Carlo deals. This is from Dan Roach of WBZ. And you look at that was the day that was before these two major deals. You got Mittelstadt, Zellers, I still don't know how to say it. Who's Nadinov or something? Lauko comes back, and Max Warner is the one that came over from Edmonton in that deal with Trent Frederic. And along with that, you got good draft capital. A couple of seconds, a fourth, and a sixth. And again, this is before Marchand and Carlo, and you're getting rid of Coyle, Frederic, Max Jones, Justin Brazeau, and a fifth-round pick. Like, if we're being honest, all those guys were useless for you this year. Like, Coyle, Frederic, Jones, Brazeau, like, they didn't do anything for you. There was no use in keeping them, and you actually got something out of them. But of course, the big deal today, which we're still waiting on the results of the return, is Brad Marchand going to the Florida Panthers. I would say the Bruins' biggest rival right now. Obviously not overall, but pretty incredible. Big Head Hockey has the tribute. Drafted in the second round in 2006. Won the cup as a full-time rookie. It was actually his second year that he played on the team. 19 points in 25 playoff games. Remember, he had 11 goals in that Stanley Cup run. All NHL first team in 17, 100 points in 2019 when they went to the final, fifth in MVP voting in 19, and became the all-time leader in penalty shot goals for the Bruins. This is absolutely the end of an era. I mean, and Twitter is just blowing up right now on a Friday afternoon. No doubt the end of an era in Boston, and this is wild, absolutely wild. Outside of the Rantanen deal today, this has to be the biggest deal out there, and maybe most surprising of the team he went to. At least we were hearing rumbling. The Rantanen thing is weird and wild, but at least we were hearing rumblings the last few days and weeks of like, hey, he might not sign here. They might need to flip him. It's an unbelievable story. And we knew there was a good chance that Marchand would get traded, but wow, the Florida Panthers. No, I did not see that coming. I really didn't see that coming. Wow. I'm interested to hear what you guys think watching live or following after the facts. Get involved in that comment section. Is this, I mean, this is stunning to me. Is it as stunning to you? I mean, we knew there was something up, and Thursday there was the reporting of like, oh, it might be Marchand to the West Coast, and oh, Marchand, this thing might come down to the wire. Once those reports start coming out, it feels like that thing is going to happen. But yeah, I just don't think any of us expected this. Like, I think that was the Bruins sending out some feelers, putting out there on Twitter that we might trade Marchand for real, as it's a day before the trade deadline. What is the fan base going to think? But man, this is nuts. For those of you Bruins fans who were freaking out over Charlie Coyle getting traded, I mean, like this is something else. And let me just say, like, this is Marchand was the Bruins' best trade chip. And I think it's probably a good thing for the organization that they traded him. But that doesn't, like, because Don Sweeney had the balls to make this move, does not recuse him from forcing this situation. Like, it's good that they're going to get a good return for him, but it sucks that it came to this. It's similar to the Bork situation. Obviously, Bork, a better player, had not won the cup and had been there for 21 years. Like, this isn't that far off. I mean, it's 15 years. But it just sucks that the organization has come to this. That 2 years ago, they literally set the all-time record for wins and points in a season. And now, in the blink of an eye, not even 2 years after they set that record, they are trading a franchise icon to their biggest rival in the East. It just sucks, man. It just sucks that it comes to this. It's probably a good thing right now that they did it, but it does suck that this is what it came to. And that's again, Don Sweeney makes the move, and that's great and everything, but Don Sweeney put them in this situation with the roster construction that he had. Man, this is a tough one. So Charlie Coyle got traded as well. Got traded to Colorado, and you got, a middle six center in Casey Mittelstadt, who had some decent seasons in Buffalo. They were always disappointed in what he kind of became with the Sabres. I said it earlier in the stream, but look, you trade 33-year-old Charlie Coyle, you get a 26-year-old Charlie Coyle and some draft capital, a second-round pick, and a prospect who's in the USHL right now, and he's only 18, but he's got to slot in as one of your top 5 prospects right now, right? If not your best one. So already, that's a win. And I know there's some emotional attachment to Charlie Coyle too, because being a local guy, being from Weymouth, and that stinks that he has to get traded. But he's done. He didn't give you anything this year, and you needed to. And it's similar to cap hit, by the way. He's somewhere around 5 million, and Mittelstadt's, I think, 5.75. Not a great cap hit for a guy of that stature, but it was the same thing with Charlie Coyle. I do want to say something about Coyle in the local aspect, because I know a ton of Bruins fans are really sad to see him go, because he was a local guy, South Shore guy, much like myself. He's from Weymouth. I'm from Rockland, born in the hospital in Weymouth. For those of you from the region, you know how close that is. He was like a hero for us in a lot of ways, because there are plenty of Massachusetts kids that make the NHL, and there are plenty of South Shore kids that make the NHL. But those of you familiar with the region know that they don't come from Weymouth. They come from Scituate and Hingham and Norwell and Hanover and Cohasset and these very Duxbury, Marshfield, these very well-to-do towns where you would expect people to play hockey, not basketball. And so for those of us from the heroin belt of the South Shore, right? Rockland, it was awesome to see a guy from Weymouth, from a town like ours, playing in the NHL, playing at the highest level, right? I mean, playing for the BU Terriers, representing Team USA at the World Juniors, playing in the NHL, and then playing for the Boston Bruins. And he was so close to winning a cup with the Bruins, which would have been the ultimate accomplishment, I think, for him. But now he's out in Colorado, and he does have a chance to win the cup. I mean, this Colorado team's got a chance. And you look at Casey Mittelstadt coming back. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's a great player. I think he's fine. I don't like that he has the worst plus minus on the Avs. I saw -12, and I was like, shit, man. Colorado's a good team. They score a lot of goals too. He is three goals worse than the next worst in terms of the plus minus for Colorado. I know he's been a bit of a disappointment for them, and who knows, he's got term as well. I think they both have a year left on their contract after this year, Coyle and Mittelstadt. So, but yeah, crazy stuff at the end. We've got to check if we can get the Elliot Friedman report here about what is coming back for Marchand. I mean, they were in the call queue 30 minutes ago, and they made that deal right after that 3 o'clock Eastern time. But yeah, Fraser Minten is the return for Boston for Carlo, by the way. That's 2 minutes ago. Fraser Minten is the guy. And we're still waiting on Brad Marchand. I think in time, we could see the Bruins as a winner in this trade deadline. It's not going to feel like that right now after you trade your captain. And clearly the big winner of this trade deadline is Dallas, to go and get Rantanen and extend him right away for $12 million. Never feels nice, but a reasonable price. I think Colorado thought they were going to owe him $14 to $15 million, and that's why they dumped him. And he ends up going 8 for 12 in Dallas. They already went and got Granlund. Their forward group is incredible right now, and that's what they need with Heiskanen out. Well, let's say that I did see Big Head Hockey, which is a great YouTube channel, tweeted out Robertson, Hintz, Rantanen, Marchment, Duchesne, Granlund, Ben, Johnston, Sagan, Steele, Bork, Dadonov. That is an incredible group of forwards for the Stars. And you add Heiskanen into that mix next year. They are all They're all under contract. So for years to come, that's a big winner of the day is the Dallas Stars. But once again, for those of you just joining us here on the live on the Cam Show, Brad Marchand to Florida. Stunning move that the Bruins have traded their team captain to the Florida Panthers, the team that sucker punched Brad Marchand last year in the playoffs and knocked them out for a couple of games. Yeah, Marchand is going to be playing with Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk eventually. That's just a wild thought to have right now. And you got to imagine there's a first-round pick coming back. You have to. With this caliber of player going at the trade deadline and just any year, they throw around first and seconds like it's nothing, like it's candy. And Marchand, I think, still demands that kind of price. Like, look, he's 36. He's going to turn 37 in the playoff run. But look, the guy still scored 20 goals this year. He still plays special teams, can play on the power play and the penalty kill. He's won the cup before. Like, that's worth something, man. So if you're a team going all in, which Florida's going all in, like, again, not that they necessarily even needed to, the defending cup champs and two-time defending Eastern Conference champs, but they're all in on this one, man. And what a move. What a move. I know Toronto needed to go D-man with the Tanev thing. But like, I think there's a misconception about Carlo. You go and see him and he's 6'4", big kid, 6'4", 6'6", whatever he is. Giant frame, but he doesn't really hit anybody. And he's not a puck mover like he used to be. And never was he a really gifted offensive player, but he could move the puck out of the zone. He really has struggled with that this year. He's really struggled with the puck on his stick. I think in the short term, you're going to see some of the things that Carlo covered up for you, but he's not had a good year or two, and he's 29. I really think it's easier to trade him when he's 29 rather than 30. Apparently, seeing some of this reaction, man, the Leafs fans are pissed about this, about getting Carlo and trading Fraser Minten away. Again, all these stories were don't trade him, trade Cowan, and it's Minten that's going to go. So if nothing else, Bruins fans, Leafs fans are pissed. So that's a good thing, right? That's a really good thing. Also, earlier in the week, of course, you had Frederic going to Edmonton. I think the Bruins got good returns on all of these so far, to be totally honest with you. But Frederic, I would have taken a second-round pick for him straight up. You got a second round. You got the second-round pick and something of a prospect. It sounds like this kid, Warner, the defenseman, is close to coming to the NHL. That doesn't mean he's going to be a star or anything. But with the Marlies this year, by the way, Fraser Minten, 13 points in 26 games, 6 goals, 7 assists. And that also would include 4 points in 14 games with the big club this year. 6'2", 192, shoots left, can play center, can play left wing. Hey, if you can get a middle six center, that's kind of what this is going to be the rest of the season. Is almost like tryouts, man. I mean, obviously he'll have some term here as a 20-year-old, but Minten and Mittelstadt, and obviously Elias Lindholm unfortunately falls into that. Like Patra, you're hoping to make a top 6 center next year, and I think you kind of have to. He's got to be better, and he's got to fill that role. But you're trying to see what these guys are going to be. Those other 3 guys, how they're going to fit into your lineup. And maybe Mitten's a 4th line guy to start. I don't think that's a terrible thing. He's played most of the year in the AHL, excuse me. So second round pick. And the Russian kid that you got from the Brazeau deal will also factor in. He also is playing center. So quantity, sure. Quality, we don't know. Bruins need centers. They've hunted centers for years. It hasn't worked out. Still nothing on the Brad Marchand return. Nothing from Fluto, nothing from Friedman. Like, what do we got here? It's got to be a first-round pick, right? I mean, those of you watching, get in the comments. It's got to be a first-round pick. Am I wrong? I would think, honestly, I would think first-round pick and a player and a young team-controlled player. Maybe I'm crazy. But we've seen the Bruins do these kinds of deals when they were going all in for years going into the playoffs, right? This is incredible. Brad Marchand to Florida. Who saw that one coming? Raquel staying in Pittsburgh, by the way. What the hell's Pittsburgh doing? What the hell is Pittsburgh doing? What do I care? Oh, and Wyatt Johnston extending with Dallas too. That's also a big win for them today. Wow. This is weird. Is this what the Panthers need? Like, genuinely, I know they lost, Montour after this year, kind of lost some rats, so to speak. No pun intended. I know rats are a big thing for them. And, obviously Bennett kind of plays this kind of role, agitator, can score, can play both special teams units. I just wonder how much of a need that was for Florida. Tuukka Rask on the Marchand trade. Quote, I have no comments, really. Good for him. Hope they win it. Oh. That's just that has to feel tough. I mean, they let Chara walk, but none of the rest of that core were traded at the trade deadline. 16 years as a Bruin, 1,114 points in 1,247 games. 2 goals in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Man, that's tough. I mean, it's necessary but tough. For those of us around my age where that's, the greatest hockey moment of our lives when they won the Stanley Cup, a guy who was a big part of that, was the only guy left from that team. To see him go is really, really tough. Colin brings up a good point in the comments here. I'm going to highlight your comment, Colin. Florida does not have a first-round pick in 25 or 26. There's things they can do to work around it. And maybe they're just giving them a good player. Who knows? I doubt it. I doubt you're giving up, good roster players for Brad Marchand, like, an established roster player, I should say. But that's what I thought. I mean, they're down on first-round picks. They're down on first-round picks. And now Colin is saying the rumor is Sam Bennett, because Bennett and Ekblad are both gone after the season. I'll tell you what, if they can get Aaron Ekblad out of that, that is a big-time win. I doubt Florida is getting rid of their number one D-man. Although, I mean, Mikkola can slot into that role. Mikkola's been awesome this season, man. He has been awesome. So maybe that is trying to get out ahead of it. I don't know if the Bruins are like ready to just go and sign an extension with Ekblad. He's certainly, I mean, golly, Ekblad would be an upgrade over Carlo. And I like Carlo, but I mean, talk about a good pair for Charlie McAvoy, because you really haven't found a great pair for McAvoy this whole time he's been here. He just turned 29 last month, Ekblad. What a player. What a player. That would be something. Yeah, the Leafs fans are losing their minds here. Brad Marchand to Florida. Brandon Carlo to Toronto. Charlie Coyle to Colorado. Justin Brazeau to Minnesota. Haven't even really talked about that. But he goes to Minnesota. I thought you would hopefully get a 5th or 6th round pick for him. You ended up getting 2 roster players and a 6th round pick. So to me, that's a win. And then Trent Frederic to Edmonton. We knew it wasn't going to sound great right off the bat because you're looking at draft picks and futures here. But I think so far, Don Sweeney's done a good job with this deadline. I think he's not fucked around. You know what I mean? I think keeping Geekie is fine. This is when his value is at its highest. So I understand why some people wouldn't mind trading him. And you might have fetched a 1st round pick for him, but I think Geekie can be a useful guy for them for the next couple of years. Maybe not a core guy, but he can be useful for you. He's played well with Pasternak this year. and you've been searching for someone like that who will play well with Pastrnak, I don't want to get off this stream until we get the details here. Veritas and Equitas, Panthers fan saying, if we got rid of Ekblad, I'd be happy. Needs a change of scenery. I'd love to hear more about that, because I don't watch the Panthers night in, night out. I know this hasn't been his best season necessarily, but I didn't know it was that bad. Maybe it is. Maybe that is kind of what the return looks like, right? Like, we're giving you, I think, definitely still a useful player in Brad Marchand, and a guy who can absolutely help out in a playoff run. I mean, you saw what he did in that Toronto series last year. Like, you're getting a 36-year-old who can still help you in the stretch run, and in return, you're getting a 29-year-old defenseman, former number one pick in the draft, who has been excellent in years past. And it can be someone, again, you kind of build around on the back end. Because as we know, like, all the great Bruins teams have been built with some oomph on the back end, right? Like, literally all the great Bruins teams of all time have been built with, like, league best defensemen and built around those. Like, you go back 100 years, man, Eddie Shore to Bobby Orr to Ray Bourque to Zdeno Chara. Like, they literally could not rebuild again from Bourque to Chara. They had a number one pick in there, a Hall of Famer, Joe Thornton. They couldn't build around him. They needed to build around a defenseman. I'm not saying Aaron Ekblad is that. But you pair him with Charlie McAvoy, and then all of a sudden you actually have the defense that's tough to play against that you thought you had going into this year. But Carlos stunk again. I mean, Zadorov is a complete fucking waste. He's a total pylon. I wish he was good, but he's not. And then you have just a bunch of guys, right? Peak and Osterley and just a bunch of guys. Of course, they just waived Osterley. And now what's interesting about this team, because no Carlo, bet that McAvoy's not playing again this year. Now a lot goes on Mason Low-Rise plate, which I know it's been a struggle for some Bruins fans to watch his development. I love the upside of Mason Low-Rise. He has struggled this year defensively. He's just got to be thrown into the fire, which has been happening the last few weeks with McAvoy out. He's playing a lot of ice time. He's playing penalty kill and power play. He's obviously, I think, a terrific quarterback on the power play for years to come. But he's just got to learn it. And, there's an adage about defensemen, and they need 250 games to get it figured out. And he's nowhere near that. So I really like Low-Rise. A lot's going to be on his plate now. But if Ekblad's the return, then you got something. You got something to work with there. But still nothing. Fraser Minton, if there are Leafs fans on here that want to know about the Carlo trade, of course you can't figure that out from the title here. But if you got something on Fraser Minton and why they didn't want to get rid of him, please let me know, because we still have nothing on this Marchand trade. Evander Kane will not return during the regular season for the Oilers. Whoops. I thought the Bruins could have done something a little tricky with the Charlie McAvoy situation, which I have talked about on the Cam Show. For those of you tuning in for the first time, we're live on YouTube at noon Eastern time every weekday, talking Boston sports and a lot of Bruins every weekday. And then wherever you get your podcasts, you can check out on the YouTube channel too. We cut up into the segments. We drop those every afternoon. They'll be a little delayed today because they're usually at 4:30 Eastern time, and we're a little bit behind there because of this. But I'm talking about Charlie McAvoy. I thought it would have been a good idea for them to put McAvoy on long-term IR, because he's probably not coming back this season. There's really no use for him coming back this season. And if you put him on long-term IR, you can kind of circumvent the cap the way that the contenders are doing. But you can use it to your own advantage. And what I mean by that is, you could have picked up, with that extra cap space, someone's shit contract and potentially got a first-round pick for it. Coyle wasn't going to go for a first-round pick, but if you traded him to wherever, you got someone's shit contract coming back, shit cap hit coming back. You can get a first round pick out of that. It's kind of what you did for Andre Kasha. Remember that great deal, Andre Kasha, where you just needed to offload Backus, and so you got rid of him, and you had to send a first round pick with it to get Andre Kasha. I wish they had done something like that, just as a way to, trade a guy you were going to trade anyway and get maximum value. I mean, as good a value as you can get, first round pick. But the shocking news of the day, Brad Marchand, this jersey, obsolete 2 months later after I bought it. I knew I should have bought a Pasternak one, but I love Brad Marchand, man. He's the one guy who is still there from my childhood rooting for the Bruins, and a really great time to be a Bruins fan back then. And he was part of 2 separate iterations of that. And now he's gone. And I feel for Marchand in terms of, people are saying he's not been a good captain. And certainly the results are the results. The team has gotten worse in the 2 years that he's been the captain. I don't know how much you measure how good a captain is based on that necessarily. I think there's just a sincere lack of talent here. Severe lack of talent, I think is what I was trying to say. A severe lack of talent on this roster. And, we've heard reports of, he's saying the right things in the room and guys just aren't listening. But that's certainly, I feel for him. I don't think he, as much as some players really like playing in Florida with the taxes and the weather and obviously the team they've got there and the way they play, a lot of guys like playing there, but I don't think that was on Brad Marchand's list. I don't think he wanted that. I don't think he wanted to leave the Bruins, but I think this is what's best for the team. Frankie Saravalli, 3-team deal with Carlo. So Carlo goes to Toronto. The Bruins get Minton and a first-round pick. And the Pens get Connor Timmins and Connor Dewar. Wow. And believe there is some retention involved. So Don Sweeney, that's a big-time deal. That's a fleece of the Maple Leafs, man. You take one of their promising prospects, I wouldn't say like a S-tier prospect, but a promising prospect from them and a first-round pick for Brandon Carlo. They're in the division. They should have seen how Carlo's been this year. Wow. I think that's a robbery for the Bruins, if we're being totally honest. Wow. Got a first for Carlo. That's big time. Still, I mean, if Carlo was fetching I know the Leafs are the fucking Leafs, man. But if Carlo's getting a first, Marchand's got to be getting a first. He has to be. He's a much more useful player than Carlo right now, especially for what Florida's trying to do. Wow. And now there are Bruins fans complaining they got Minton over Cowan. I mean, I'm sorry, dude. They got their second. They got the next best guy and a first-round pick. Don't know what else you want. Like, I was like thinking Carlo for a first-round pick would have been a stretch. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough day for the Bruins fans of my vintage. And it's going to be a tough end of the season. But look, you're stockpiling picks here. You got young players. You've got a good amount of picks. What'd you get? A couple of second rounders and at least one first rounder right now. And you're going to tank the rest of this season. Like the Bruins, that right now they have a 5% chance of getting the first overall pick. 5%. It's not nothing. And look, the next couple of games are against playoff teams. They got Tampa tomorrow. They've got Brad Marchand's team on Tuesday, I want to say, back at the Garden. Like the losses are going to keep coming. I know Marchand wasn't playing right now, but like the losses are going to keep coming for this team. They are going to be solidly inside the top 10 of the draft this year. Not a great draft. We all know, not a great draft. Fine. But if they can sneak into that top 5, there is a chance that James Hagen's there. And the BC kid, obviously he was great. He's been great for BC. He was great at the World Juniors. Center, scorer. I think that would be a perfect guy for the Bruins to get for their future, but they'll probably just pick a defenseman that's big. They just love big defensemen, which is funny that they've kind of got some little guys here, right? With Zellers and Minton's Minton's 6'2". Mittelstadt's not that big a guy. So Jace, man, Jace in the comments says he's throwing his jersey away. Come on, he didn't ask for this. Is anyone else throwing their Brad Marchand jersey away? Mine's going to stay right here or on my body. I'm actually in Chicago. I'm going to go to the Blackhawks game tonight. Maybe I'll just pop that on as a sign of solitude. And Noah's saying fire Sweeney. Look, I want to fire Sweeney anyway. Okay. But I don't know if I would fire him after today. I think this has actually been a good day for Don Sweeney. I'd love to have him not making the draft picks. I'll say that. I still like this. Again, today is a good day for Don Sweeney because it's an accumulation of a lot of bad days for Don Sweeney and bad years for Don Sweeney. And I don't want him doing this rebuild for the Bruins. I just don't think it's smart. I don't think he's a great GM. And what's funny is going into this year, I was actually kind of defending Don Sweeney. I liked a lot of his trade deadline moves when they went all in. But then you gave him, he's had 2 off seasons where he could spend some money. And both of them have been dog shit. Okay. 2016, or 15 going into 15-16 season, it was Backus and Bolesky and Zach Ronaldo and the late Jimmy Hayes. And this past year, it was Swayman and an Olmark trade, which still doesn't feel great, and Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm, which were awful. Just 2 awful deals. And Elias Lindholm couldn't go down as one of the worst deals in the history of the franchise. It really could. Lest we forget that's fucking terrible. But today, I think, is a Don Sweeney day. It doesn't dismiss any of the other days. So I'm still with you, Noah. Fire Don Sweeney. I'm still there. But I don't think this is why. I think they needed to do something like this. Jimmy says, ultimate rat move. It sucks. I don't know. Is it a rat move for Sweeney or Marchand? Marchand is a rat, but he doesn't have anything to do with this. I think going into this was the best thing you could do in terms of a return, was to get Brad Marchand out for a first round pick and possibly a player. This is a good tweet from Michael Sullivan, kind of what I was just talking about. He's a guy on Bruins Twitter. He put out the petition to get Brady Tkachuk to the Bruins. He said, to the Bruins fans who are upset, what else was Don supposed to do? We all know they have to rebuild, came into this deadline knowing that. It's a transitional day for the Bruins. It's the end of an era, but the time has to come to move forward. Like, that's what it is. Today is the end of an era. And like, that still sucks. Kevin Paul DuPont, who's a total douchebag, but this is kind of a funny tweet from last night. Bruins could finish with exactly 100 points if they go 18-0-0 the rest of the way. And it sucks. Like, today is going to suck for Bruins fans. Like, there's no doubt about it. And I don't know if this will be some huge landmark day in terms of the return, but like, this is the beginning of the next Bruins. It is. And by the way, season tickets going up next year. I'm on the list. I might get the call this summer because I think there are supposed to be, I think there are people going to be dumping their season tickets after this. I can't believe, and that's like, the Bruins always something slimy. I can't believe those shitheads had the balls to raise the fucking ticket prices after this, like, knowing that this was coming too. Like, we all knew something like this was coming. God, yeah, just tough day. Sports Shorts says, I'm a Panthers fan. I believe we're trading Carter for Hagee, which I don't like, but Brad will be a solid piece for the playoffs. If it's for Hagee and a first round pick, I'm fine with that. I mean, I should check. I don't know Verhaeghe's numbers this year, but he's always been a guy I liked in the past. I hated that he scored that big goal against us in game 7. That was the overtime one, right? Or did he scored the game tire? I don't remember. I tried to block that out from my mind. But, he's a center with a little bit of grit to him. He's 29. He's going to turn 30 in the summer. 6'2", 44 points this year. I mean, that's DeBrusk, which you didn't replace. I know DeBrusk was a winger, but that's point production that you didn't replace. And he's a minus 13. Not great. But I would take Carter Verhaeghe and a first-round pick. It can't just be something like Carter Verhaeghe. Jimmy, I think, speaks for all of us. Both feels like a kick in the wiener. Yep. Definitely does. Pedro, Toronto Maple Leafs fan here. Oops. I'm telling you, I think the Leafs got fleeced here. I know they didn't give up Cowan, and there were some mixed results on whether they wanted to give up Cowan or Minter. But a first-round pick and a kid like that, was it Fraser Minten? There's some upside there. I think that's a good deal for the Bruins. I think it's bad for the Leafs. Because I also just don't think Carlo is going to give them what he thinks they're going to give him. I don't think he's a big physical guy at the back who's going to clear out the crease. He's not that. Man, he used to be a good stay-at-home defenseman, like great positionally, good stick, very good stay-at-home defenseman who had some puck-moving skills. And I don't think he moves the puck very well at all anymore. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've been watching game this year, and he's just like losing the puck without getting checked. Like no one's even covering him, and he just like can't settle down the puck. I don't know if there's been some injury that he's been dealing with that we don't know about, but I just don't think that's I just don't think that's the deal the Leafs think it is. And I know Leafs fans are kind of crashing out online. But overall, I think from a business end today, you've set yourself up for the future. Through the first couple of trades, I thought they were going to be a better team tomorrow than they were today. But obviously I guess Marchand's hurt, so it doesn't really, I guess that's still true. But I thought they were coming out of this with getting rid of some contracts and just looking a little bit better, but still being a bad team. Playing Sharks, how do you like my Cats now? I don't like the Cats. Why would I like them more after Brad Marchand went there? That's silly. No, I don't like the Cats. But, I mean, I respect this move by Florida. And I like some of the players there. I mean, again, I would take Carter Verhaeghe and a first-round pick. But we still have not heard the official terms on this, which I think is wild, as we're past an hour later after the trade. Allegedly. Still nothing from Friedman. Got to get Pierre LeBrun on the horn here. See if we have anything from him. But, like, if you're a Bruins fan watching this, and I know there's a lot of Panthers fans watching this, we welcome you. If you're a Bruins fan watching this, like, what is the return? Like, what makes the return viable for you? What makes it okay to trade Brad Marchand? Because to me, it's a good roster player and a first-round pick. But I'm interested to hear from the fans, because I think there are a lot of Bruins fans out there who feel differently about it than I do. And think that there's more. Yeah, you didn't trade a 5th rounder for Brad Marchand, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's classic Florida Panthers fans. They know their hockey, man. Yeah, I don't trust Sweeney with the picks either. I really don't. But this is it could be a landmark day for the Boston Bruins. And this is the first day of the rest of our lives. And I'll definitely have to keep you guys updated on whether I get the call for my name coming up on season tickets this year. It wasn't a terribly long wait list anyway. That's just kind of the nature of the NHL. But who knows after this, with the ticket prices going up and Marchand not on the team. I'd be happy with just a first from Marchand. I probably would be too. I think I'd like a little bit more, but it's tough to complain. It's tough to complain if you just got a first-round pick for him. I just don't know when that's coming. I mean, there's got to be a third team involved here, like the Carlo trade. I think that's what's got to be holding it up right now, because Florida does not have a first-round pick. the next 2 years. So I think that's what's keeping, and who knows, maybe that means the deal can be voided. I don't know how that works if they don't get, a third team that's going to be able to get a first round pick in there, or maybe, Florida's got a third deal that sends one of their guys out for a first round pick. Maybe they're not trading Ekblad to Boston, but they're trading Ekblad somewhere else for a first that they can send to. I don't know if you can, if he's on an expiring contract, but I guess Marchand's doing it. So yeah, maybe they traded Ekblad somewhere else, got a first round pick, and then they can send that to Boston. And Plain Sharks does come up and say 3 teams involved: Panthers, Bruins, and Leafs. Do we have a report on that? I haven't seen that yet. That would be interesting if the Leafs helped us out in 2 trades today. I've just been checking Friedman and LeBrun here, and a little bit of Fluto Shinzawa. Carlo was just on TSN. Oh, rumors of a conditional second. Oh, yeah, John Buchagras. Oh, that's on Carlo. Buchagras talking about Carlo. He says, I'm hearing the Bruins get a first and Fraser Minton for Carlo. Oh, sorry. I'm hearing Bruins got a first and Fraser Minton from Carlo, which we heard, and a second conditional first for Marchand. That's 7 minutes ago. He says a second in 27 that turns into a first in 2028 if conditions are met. If that is true, and there's no player going into it, and it's a conditional second, that is a colossal fuck up by Don Sweeney. I'd rather just keep him. And maybe that's a sign that he'll come back in the summer, maybe, but I don't fucking care. I mean, the reason why we didn't want to trade Brad Marchand because we didn't like him. Okay, we wanted to trade Brad Marchand for a first round pick. Wow, if that's the case, if John Buchagras' reporting is correct here, that would not be good for Don Sweeney. I think you have to have a first round pick. By the way, also within the Bruins news, Mike Felger saying the Bruins should have gotten more back for players he's never said a nice thing about, Carlo and Charlie Coyle. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more you get out of those guys. You got a fucking first round pick for Carlo. What did you expect? You expect them to trade you Marner? Oh, second round and a conditional first? Is that what I'm reading? Still nothing from Friedman. Yeah, this sounds like just a one. I mean, there's got to be a player in there, right? I don't know how you make that deal for just a second. Yeah, Gregory and two other Stanley Cup winners with the Bruins, Gregory Campbell and Sean Thornton, have a huge part in running that organization down there in Florida. Reunited. Feels so good. Oh, fuck. Grinelli's tweeting it out too, being told it's just a conditional second for Marchand that could turn into a first. Oh. I can't agree more. If it's a second, Sweeney needs to go, for fuck's sake. He does need to go anyway. But this would have been a good thing to help them going out the door. Oh, that's... Well, we've got a couple minutes till we make it a full hour on the stream. We might as well do it. Yeah, there are multiple reports. Nothing like officially official, just people saying I'm hearing what I'm hearing. But, yeah... Buchagras, Grinelli. I mean, say what you want about Barstool and Grinelli. He does get a lot of those things right. He does have some people on the inside. And say what you want. I fucking love spitting chiclets. So, oh man. And at this point, like, Marchand might not have wanted to leave, but if you're going to trade him to a team that he doesn't like, and like, I think we'll get over that because Florida could well win the cup. But if you trade him to a rival that he's had beef with before, and all you got was a second round pick, I don't know if that guy comes back. I really don't. I don't know if he does. I think he might hold a grudge there. And now Bruins fans are crashing out. Like as soon as I saw this deal done, I thought there's no way they're not getting a first round pick. In fact, any deal, like yesterday, 2 weeks ago, any deal that I thought about for Brad Marchand, I thought absolutely they would get a first round pick. And watch, fucking Don Sweeney's going to do a press conference later today, 5:30 Eastern time. So it's classic news dump. And he's just going to cuss out reporters, and he's going to be adversarial. He's going to be a dick about it. And no one can hold his feet to the fire. But this would be a bad deal for the Bruins if it's only a second round pick, which is sounding exactly what it's like right now. Now I've got AI turning Nico Harrison into Don Sweeney pictures on Twitter. Oh my God. I'd love to know what the Bruins fans think in the comments here. If I told you a week ago or yesterday that, hey, no matter what the team is, like, you're going to trade Brad Marchand, but it's only going to be for a second round pick that might turn into a first round pick. I don't think any of us are on board with that. I don't think any of us say yes to that. By the way, those of you tuning in for the first time, Cam Show, high noon Eastern time, every weekday, live here on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts, with segments involved as well. You can check that out on the YouTube page. We talked a lot at the trade deadline leading up to this thing and what the Bruins needed to do. We've got a segment we had on today's show, which has not been segmented yet because I've been doing this, but we will have a segment out later about where this all went wrong for the Bruins, where it all started. Probably, in my opinion, the Bruce Cassidy firing, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Be on the lookout for that. Get involved in the comments. Liking and subscribing, that helps us out a lot. If you guys have been in on this reaction page, please do me a favor, dude. Like the video. That really, really helps a growing channel like mine. And coming back really helps. But I would love to get some official confirmation here on what this is, but it's certainly sounding like Don Sweeney has traded franchise icon Brad Marchand to current big-time rival, the Florida Panthers, for a sack of magic beans, a second-round pick that might turn into a first. But yeah, I don't know about you guys. I just could not have made that deal if I knew it was just going to be a second-round pick. And like, what are the conditions, man? Like, ugh. Second round pick. How do you justify that? How do you justify getting only a second for Brad Marchand and a first for Brandon Carlo? I don't know who should feel worse about that, Bruins fans or Leafs fans. Like, are you kidding me? I thought they already fleeced the Leafs, but if you got a first for Carlo and a second for Marchand, that's banana land to me. Guys, how is that possible? Wow. Oh, man. And now, by the way, now the talk needs to become, if Marchand doesn't come back in the summer, which could happen, who's your next captain of the Boston Bruins? I used to think it was going to be McAvoy. I think it's going to be Pastrnak. Be totally honest with you. It might feel weird because he doesn't play a full 200-foot game, but he's so comfortably their best player. So comfortable. Fuck, do I want to listen to this 15-minute Mike Felger reaction? I don't think so. But who knows? Maybe they're just ready to make, they're just going to save a ton of cap room and make a huge push for Jack Eichel next summer. Likely. Or Mitch Marner this summer. Likely. Still, yeah, we get it. Daniel Sprong, the New Jersey, but nothing new, nothing official from one of these guys about what the return is for Marchand. If it's a second round pick, I think that is catastrophic for the Bruins. I was on board as I could be on this Marchand trade when the news broke, just because you're like, this is going to be a great return. But if that's all they're getting, just wow, that's wild. If that's all you're getting, to me, that's a failure. I would have rather just kept him, signed him to an extension, kind of short money. But Defumi, one of my favorite Bruins Twitter accounts, and this is probably where we'll end it, says, talking about this conditional second, says he just wanted the player gone unless they think they're still rebuilding in 2028. Yeah. That's the other part about this. That pick, if it's a first, is in fucking 2028. These motherfuckers are telling us about a retool. Oh, no, we're not going to rebuild. We're going to retool. We're going to see what we can get at the deadline to make our team better. These guys are talking about a retool and are trading their best goddamn trade chip for a potential first-round pick 3 fucking years from now. 4 drafts from now. There's no way Sweeney's making that pick. No fucking way. He shouldn't be making the 2025 picks. God, that's got to make you sick to your stomach if you're a Bruins fan. Again, take the sentimentality bullshit out of it. If it's Marchand for a first-round pick and someone like Carter Verhaeghe, I'm all in. Like, it sucks, my childhood and everything like that, the 2011 team, it sucks. But if that's the return you're getting out of it, we're playing to live another day here. But now, with this reporting, it to me seems like a bad deal for the Bruins. A bad deal. But let me know what you guys think. Truly. Get in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about this deal from the Bruins perspective, from the Panthers perspective, from the Leafs perspective. If you're just a Wild fan, like waiting to hear about Justin Brazeau, I'm sorry. Let me know what you think in the comments below, though. What this deal, what would make this a good deal once we get the official report here, and how this works for the Bruins. I agree with you, Connor. It still feels like no way this can be the return. It just doesn't feel like that can be real. But that's all we're seeing here. Again, nothing from one of the big dogs, like an official ruling. But that is wild. That is so wild. Golly. Yeah. What is this here? Chose together. Oh, yeah, that's just brutal. That's brutal if that's it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's been an hour. I don't Yeah, okay. This is what I was sorry, one more comment from Plain Sharks, who's been a great commenter on this today. Doesn't say anything about a player. There's only say unconditional second round pick that can become a first if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup. That would make sense. Like, I don't think it's still good, but that would actually make some sort of sense. But yeah, it's not getting a first round pick for a future Hall of Famer who can still score 20 goals for you, has won a Stanley Cup and can play special teams at his age. That's not going to sit right with any of us. Again, one more time, for those of you coming in to the live stream, please do like the video, subscribe. We have Boston sports stuff every day, a lot of Bruins stuff. If you're just a Bruins fan, we do a lot of Bruins stuff. We are live on YouTube at noon Eastern every weekday, and wherever you get your podcasts as well. We also have segments going out each day. So if you don't want to stick around for the whole hour, or you're working or whatever, we have the segments out later that afternoon. Or if you're just a Bruins fan and you're looking for Bruins stuff, I'm not offended. You just watch the Bruins stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is one of the biggest streams we've ever had, and for good reason. Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers, potentially just for a second-round pick, which would be a huge mess up. Brandon Carlo to Toronto for Fraser Minton and a first-round pick. Love that one. Charlie Coyle to Colorado for Will Zellers, the USHL prospect. Casey Mittelstadt, former Buffalo Sabre, 26 years old, and a second-round pick. Justin Brazeau to the Wild for Lauko, and the Russian center, whose name I still can't pronounce, but his claim to fame is that he played on a line with Matvei Michkov in Russia, and a sixth-round pick, Trent Frederic to the Oilers for defenseman prospect Max Warner, which sounds like Maximum Wiener, I know, and a second-round pick as well. Whew. Give me your thoughts. Give it to me in the comments below. Be sure, again, like, subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. Doesn't cost you anything. And I guess I'm going to see some of you guys on Monday when we return with the Cam Show.